A wife has no business bent over a column of figures, Harlan Reeves said. He said it to Silas Hale, not to the woman across the table who had kept that column for 10 years. The room agreed. Someone laughed low into his cup. Pruitt, whose range ran along the north fence, lifted his glass and allowed that a woman and a ledger were a poor match, and that a good husband soon set such things straight. The lamps were lit. The shipping supper had reached the hour when the men talked past the food, and Cora Hale sat at her own father's table and listened to her marriage being arranged over the cold roast. Reeve was a commission man out of town. He moved cattle to the railhead and took his cut of every head he shipped east, and this fall the Hale herd could not move a step without him. He had come to supper with a contract in his coat and a proposal folded inside it. The proposal was for Cora. The contract was for her father. He had made it plain that the two came together, and he had named his one small term as though it weighed nothing at all. She'll leave off the books, naturally, Reeves said, still speaking to her father. I keep my own accounts. No wife of mine will be squinting at way tickets by lamplight. Silas Hale looked at his plate. He needed the contract. Every man there knew it. The grass had come in thin, the creek had run low all summer, and the one road the herd had to market went straight through Reeves' commission house. It's a fair offer, Silas, Pruitt said. More than fair in a lean year. Her father cleared his throat. She keeps a fair set of books, Harlan. 10 years now. Never a figure out of place. Which speaks well of her patience, Reeves said, and nothing at all of her need to keep on. A married woman has a house to run. Let the counting go to a man who's paid to do it. My clerk is very thorough. Cora set down her fork. She had kept the Hale tally for 10 years. Since the winter her mother died and the counting fell to her, because no one else would sit still long enough to do it. She knew the herd by the book better than the men knew it by sight. And she understood, sitting there with the gravy going to skin on her plate, that the term was not small. The books were the one thing on the whole ranch that were hers. Reeves' price was that she hand them over and go quiet for good. For 10 years the tally had been the first thing she reached for in the morning and the last she set down at night. She knew which cows had lost calves and which had thrown twins, which steers had shipped and what each had brought, down to the ounce. The men rode the range and carried it in their heads a season at a time. Cora carried the whole herd on paper, years deep, and the paper did not forget a thing. Reeve wanted the paper to forget. Then Wyatt Kerr stood up. Kerr was the foreman. He had ridden the drive that fall, and every fall for 6 years before it, and he did not, as a rule, speak at the owner's table. He crossed to the sideboard where the ranch things were kept. He took down the worn tally book, the brown one with the cracked spine that Cora carried out to the corrals every morning of her life. He came back and set it on the cloth beside her plate. Keep the ledger, he said. That was all of it. 2 words, and nothing after. He did not open the book. He did not explain himself. He stepped back from the table and stood against the wall with his hat in both hands, and he did not once look at Reeve. The table went quiet. Reeve's smile stayed where it was, but it stopped meaning anything. Sit down, Kerr, Silas said. I'll sit, Kerr said. Directly, he did not sit. He stayed on his feet by the wall. Cora looked at the book by her plate. She knew every page of it. She could not think why a hired man would put his whole place at risk to hand her a thing that was already hers to carry. A foreman who crossed a broker in front of the county would not be a foreman by morning. And the quarter section along the creek her father had promised him after the drive, the land that would have made him a man with ground under him instead of a man drawing wages, would go back into idle talk and never come out again. Kerr knew all of that better than she did. he had set the book down anyway. Reeve found his voice. "Sentiment," he said to the table, warm and easy, a foreman fond of the household bookkeeping. "It's a charming thing. It changes nothing." He turned back to her father. "Silas, the cars are held for us at the railhead. We settle tonight, or we do not settle at all." "Cora," her father said, low, the word bent halfway toward an apology. "Girl, let it lie." She opened the book. She did not open it to the front. She opened it to the settlement pages at the back, where she copied out what Reeves' commission house sent home after every draft of cattle went to the cars. She knew the shape of a settlement as well as she knew her own hand. Gross weight across the top, taken on the big scale at the railhead, a line for shrink beneath it. Then the net, and the price by the hundredweight, and the commission Reeve carved off the bottom. She had asked about the shrink once, a year back, and been given the answer every rancher was given. Cattle come off the grass heavy with water and green feed. They lose it walking to the railhead and standing in the holding pens, near a pound in every 20 gone before the beam is ever read. Every outfit paid it. It was ordinary. She had written it down as ordinary and never thought on it again. But she had only ever had the paper one sheet at a time, filed as it came. She had never laid a season of them out in a row. Reading down the column now, slow, with the whole table waiting for her to be shamed into shutting the cover, she saw a thing she had copied a dozen times and never once set side by side. There were 2 settlements pinned to every draft. The scale house at the railhead wrote its own ticket, and that ticket already took the shrink off before it gave a net. Then, Reeves' house made its own sheet from that ticket, and Reeves' sheet took the shrink off a second time, under a tidier word, before it figured what the ranch was owed. The cattle were docked for the water twice, once on the scale and once again in town. Cora did not say any of that. Not yet. A doubled line could be a clerk's tired mistake, and she was a woman with a book at a table full of men who had already decided what a woman and a book were worth. A mistake was not enough. She needed to know the scale itself was honest, so that the second dock could only be theft and never error. She closed the book with her finger inside it. "Mr. Reeve," she said, "how was my father's stock weighed at the railhead?" "On the company scale, madam, as all stock is weighed." "And the shrink? Who sets it?" "The market sets it," Reeve said, and the ease had gone thin. "It is not a thing a lady arranges." "No," Cora said, "but it is a thing a lady can add." Her father told her that was enough. Reeve said the cars would not wait on a woman's temper. Pruitt looked at the ceiling. Across the room, Kerr had not moved, and when Cora glanced at him, he gave her the smallest thing. Not a smile, only a short nod, as if she had asked him a question about cattle, and he had answered it plain. She stood. "Then we settle in the morning," she said, "at the scale, where the weighing is done." "There is nothing at the scale to see," Reeve said. "Then it will cost you an hour," she said, "and nothing more." Reeve looked at her father, waiting for Silas Hale to put his daughter back in her chair. Silas turned his glass around and did not lift his eyes, and in the end he said only, "Morning then." It was not courage. It was a man too tired to fight 2 directions at once, but it was enough to carry the thing into daylight, and daylight was all Cora wanted. She found Kerr on the porch after, in the cold, checking a cinch he had already checked. "You'll lose your place for that," she said. "You know it." "I know it," Kerr said. "And the creek quarter. That too." "Why then?" He worked the latigo a moment before he answered. "I hauled the last 3 drafts to the cars myself," he said. "Loaded them, weighed them, watched the clerk write the ticket. Then the settlements came home, and the figures didn't sit with what I'd seen loaded. I couldn't read the column to know where it went wrong. You can." He looked at her then, level, the porch lamp low between them. "It's your book. It always was. I only put it back where it belongs. You could have told me. Weeks ago." "A foreman's word against a commission man's is worth nothing in this county," he said. "Yours against the paper is worth everything. I couldn't hand you the answer. I could hand you the book. And if I'd never opened it, if I'd gone quiet the way Reeve wanted, then you'd have gone quiet holding your own book," Kerr said, "instead of his. That's worth something, whichever way it fell." He pulled the cinch loose and set it again, slower than the work needed. "There's things a man can't find another of. Your book is one of yours. I wasn't going to stand at that wall and watch him take it off you and call it a wedding." He did not say the rest, and she counted it anyway. He had not asked her for a thing, not her hand, not her thanks, not a word to her father on his behalf. He had put down the one thing that gave him leverage and stepped back from it. They rode to the railhead before dawn, the two of them and a lead steer off the last held draft, the sky still hard with stars over the range. "Tell me what I'm looking at," Cora said, "before we get there. I'll not walk in and learn it in front of Reeve." "The company owns the scale and the pens both," Kerr said. "A man ships his cattle, the company weighs them, the company writes the ticket, and the rancher takes the number on faith because the rancher's got no scale of his own. The railroad won't load a steer that hasn't crossed that platform. So whoever keeps the beam keeps the price. And Reeve keeps the beam. Reeve keeps the desk in town. The scale's honest men, near as I can tell." That's the part that puzzled me. The horses picked down the grade toward the spur. "The stealing's not on the platform, Cora. If it was, I'd have caught it loading. It's between the platform and the settlement. It's somewhere in the writing." "He sells them for us then," Cora said. "We never once meet the buyer." "Consignment," Kerr said. "The ranch owns the cattle until they're sold at the yards back east. Reeve only stands between. He advances against the herd, books the freight, takes the buyer's offer, and carves his commission off the top of the sale. Every dollar of it runs through his figures. A man set up like that doesn't need to lay a hand on a steer to rob you. He needs only to touch the paper and trust that you won't read it." "He picked the wrong ranch to keep books for," she said. "He picked the right one," Kerr said, "for 10 years running. He just never once counted on the bookkeeper. Then we look at the writing," she said, "against the beam. And we make the beam speak first, so no one can say the beam lied." Kerr glanced at her sidelong. "You'd have made a fair foreman," he said. "I'd have made a fair anything," Cora said, "if a room would once let me." The scale house sat where the loading pens met the spur, a plank platform bedded on a stone pit, the great steel beam housed above it under a little roof. Cora had passed it 100 times and never once stood on it. Kerr swung the empty platform gate and let her look down into the pit at the levers and the knife edges that the whole weight of a wagon of beef would ride on. "It reads true or it reads false from right here," he said. "Not from town." He crouched at the edge of the pit and named the parts for her, the long steel levers and the hardened knife edges they balanced on. Thin as a blade and meant to stay as true as one. A scale did not go wrong by magic, he told her. It went wrong by wear, by grit worked under an edge, by a bearing gone slack, or by a thumb where no thumb belonged. That was why the honest ones were tested against sealed weights and stamped, and why the county paid a man to travel out and prove them. This one had been proved in the spring. The stamp was still on it. He set the balance first. He showed her the poise, the sliding weight along the notched beam, and the small counterpoise pan for the fine ounces, and how the beam had to float dead level with the platform bare before a single steer ever stepped up. "Tear," he said. "You weigh the empty floor and set it to naught. If a man doesn't tear honest, every load after it is a lie. and it's a lie you'll never find in the total." "How do you read the weight itself?" Cora asked. "Off the beam. The long bars notched in hundreds, the short one and the singles in the ounces." He touched each in turn. "You slide the big poise to the nearest hundredweight under the load, then walk the little one out until she floats. Where they come to rest, added together, that's your live weight. A steer sells by the hundredweight, so 100 pounds lost here is real money counted in town, and no one checks it. The buyer checks it. The seller takes his word." He almost smiled. "That's the whole trick of the country, Cora. A man who owns the number owns the sale, unless somebody keeps a second count. I kept mine. I just couldn't read it against his." The beam floated level. The scale, at least, was true. Then he drove the lead steer up the chute and onto the platform. A big 3-year-old. And let Cora slide the poise herself. She walked it out along the notches until the beam lifted and swam and held. She read the weight off the bar in the gray light. She read it a second time to be sure of it, because a number read aloud in a room could not be taken back. "Now the shrink," Kerr said. "Watch what it truly is." They penned the steer and gave it neither feed nor water, and while the sun came up over the pens he told her the rest of it, plain as he would tell a green hand. A steer full of grass and creek water in the morning weighed light by afternoon once it had stood and passed the water through. That loss was real. That was the shrink, and an honest buyer took it once. £1.20, near enough. Because he did not care to pay beef prices for a belly of water that would be gone before the cars ever rolled. "Once," Cora said. "Once," Kerr said. "You weigh heavy. You dock the water. You pay for meat. That's the whole of it. There is no honest second dock. The water is only in the animal the one time. At noon they weighed the steer again. It had come down by just that much, exactly as he had said, and no more. The scale had told the truth twice. The animal had told the truth. Only the paper from town said the water had come off the Hale herd 2 separate times, once at the beam and once again at Reeves' desk, as though the same cattle had stood and dried a second time on the ride into the settlement column. Cora sat on the edge of the pit with the tally book open on her knee, and the scale tickets Kerr had saved spread beside it, and for the first time she laid ticket against sheet, draft by draft, the whole year of them. The scale ticket took the shrink. Reeves' sheet took it again. Every settlement, the same weight of beef, grassed and raised and driven by the Hale Ranch, docked twice and paid for never. On the autumn draft alone it came to $11. Across the year of drafts it ran past 60, and $60 in a lean year was a note at the bank, a winter of feed, the whole distance between holding the creek quarter and selling it off. "He's not skimming the scale," she said. "The scale is clean. He's skimming the arithmetic. He takes the water off twice and trusts that no one lines up the pages." "No one ever has," Kerr said. "I have now." They came back into town at mid-morning to a settlement that had grown a crowd. Word had gone around, as word does, that the Hale girl had made a commission man hold his cars over a bookkeeping fit, and half the county had found a reason to stand near the scale house and watch her fail at it. Reeve waited with his sheets fanned across a plank laid over 2 barrels, patient, a man who had done this in front of ranchers all his life and never once lost. "Well, madam," he said, loud enough to carry, "you have had your morning. The cars are waiting on us. Shall we let the men settle the men's business now?" "We'll settle it here," Cora said, out loud, so everyone who came to watch can hear the sums. "Cora," her father said. "Let her," Pruitt said, unexpectedly, and there was a thing in the old man's face that had not been at supper. "I'd hear it." She laid the first scale ticket on the plank beside Reeves' first sheet. She did not raise her voice. She had learned long ago that a quiet number carries farther than a loud one. "This is the railhead ticket for the first draft," she said. "Gross weight, here. Shrink taken off, here. 1 pound in every 20, for the water. This is honest, every outfit pays it." She set Reeves' sheet down beside it. "This is Mr. Reeves' settlement for the same cattle on the same day. Gross weight copied over. The same. And here." She put her finger on the line. "Shrink, taken off again. The same water, off the same steers, a second time. The cattle carried it once. Mr. Reeve billed my father for it twice. An allowance," Reeves said. "A standard yard allowance, distinct from transit shrink. Any commission house in the territory, name the second water then," Cora said. "The beam this morning found 1 pound in 20, and not 1 pound more. Tell this county where the other pound went. It did not come off the steer. I weighed him at dawn and again at noon. It came off the page." "You misread the sheets," Reeves said. "A woman untrained in the trade. Then, train me here. In front of these men. Show me the steer that dried out twice. Show me where a second 20 pounds of water hides inside an animal that only ever drank the once." She let the quiet stretch. "You can't, because there is none. There is the water, and there is the same water written down again with a cleaner name on it." "I shipped through him too," said a lean man leaning on the barrels. He had not meant to speak. It came out of him anyway. "I never laid my pages side by side either." He looked at Reeve, and then at his own boots. "I believe I'd like to, now." Reeve started in on holding pens and yard practice and the long customs of the trade, and the words came faster, and they were still only words. Cora let him spend them. Then she laid down the next ticket and the next sheet and read the doubled line again and set down the one after that. Draft by draft, the same 2 words in her mouth each time, gross and shrink, gross and shrink, until the pattern stood up on its own and every man along the rail could count it without her. A younger rancher near the front pulled his own folded settlement out of his coat and turned it over, reading it now as he had never once read it before. 2 others leaned in to read along with him. Nobody spoke. For a moment the only sound at the scale house was paper turning, and men doing sums they wished they had done years back. "That is the whole year," she said, when the plank was covered. $11 in the fall, better than 60 across the 12-month. Off one ranch, and he keeps a book like it for every ranch that ships through his house. She looked up, not at Reeve now, but at the county. How many pages has nobody ever laid side by side? Nobody answered her, but the men who sold their cattle through Reeve's house were doing the arithmetic she had just taught them, and Reeve watched it happen on their faces, and for the first time that morning, he had nothing tidy to say. He gathered his sheets. "The contract is withdrawn," he said stiffly, to Silas Hale, as though the withdrawing were his own idea. "I'll not do business with an outfit that slanders the house that carries it." "You'll do business," Pruitt said. "Or you'll answer to every brand on this rail for the water you took off it." "Your choice, Reeve, but the girl ships her father's cattle at an honest dock, and so do the rest of us. Or you go find another county to be thorough in." Reeve shipped the Hale cattle. He shipped them at a single shrink, docked once, read off the beam in front of 2 witnesses Pruitt named on the spot. He did it because the county was watching now, and a commission man is worth only the trust of the ranchers who use him, and Cora had spent his in one morning with a book, a beam, and a steer that told the truth at noon. It was 3 days before her father spoke of it, and when he did it came out sideways, as such things did with Silas Hale. He found Kerr mending the corral gate and stood a while before he said it. "I owe you the creek quarter," Silas said. "For the drive, it's yours. You all but saved this ranch, standing up at my table. Take the land, Kerr." Kerr set down his hammer. "I'll not take it," he said. "It's owed. It's got nothing to do with the girl." "It's got everything to do with her," Kerr said. If I take that land the day after, the whole county tells the same story about me they'd have told about Reeve. That I bought in, that she was part of the settlement." He shook his head. "I stood up at your table because the book was hers. I'll not be paid for handing a woman what already belonged to her. Keep your quarter, Silas. I draw my wages. That is enough." Silas Hale looked at his foreman a long moment, and then he did a thing he had not done at the supper. He put out his hand. Kerr took it. Cora heard of it, as she heard of most things, from the book. The wages went on in her own tally, in her own hand, foreman's pay, month by month, and no acre against his name anywhere in it. He had made sure the page stayed clean. She kept the ledger. That autumn and the ones after it, she carried the brown book to the corrals every morning, and when the drafts went to the cars, she laid the railhead ticket beside her own tally that same night and squared the two before she slept, so that no water ever came off the Hale herd twice again. The county learned to do the same. Within a year, a rancher who did not line up his ticket against his settlement was thought a fool, and more than one outfit held its ground through the next hard winter on the dollars it had stopped losing. Kerr rode the herd. Cora kept the count. Once a month they sat at the kitchen table with the tickets and the tally between them and squared the one against the other. His eye on the cattle and hers on the column, and neither of them was only the rescuer, and neither only the rescued. Once he laid a ticket down and frowned. That draft weighed light. I recall the day. Cold snap, and they'd not watered before we loaded. "Then it's honest light," she said, and wrote it as it stood. "Honest light I'll take all day. It's the dry water I won't." He never asked her. She had noticed that he would not, that he had built the whole thing so that the asking could never look like a bill come due. So in the end it was Cora who spoke. On an evening at the corral fence with the light going gold across the range and the tally book in her hand where it always was. "You gave me back my own book," she said, "and took nothing for it. I've decided what you'll take instead. Have you, me if you'll have me, with the book still mine and my name still on the count and no acre changing hands to seal it." She held the book out across the top rail. "Keep the ledger with me. That's the whole of the offer. There's no water in it and nothing docked twice. Only the two of us squaring an honest column." Kerr looked at the worn brown book between them a long moment. Then he closed his hand over hers around it and did not take it from her and held it there. "I'll keep it with you," he said, directly, and this time he meant now.